Hi, I'm Tony Fulgham. I'm a writer, I'm a musician, I'm a filmmaker. Budweiser has invited me to take a road trip around the Pacific Northwest and meet some of the people and go to see some of the places that make this such a unique corner of America. All right, so we're about to head down to Portland to meet Nong, who at 23 immigrated to the United States from Thailand with like 70 bucks in her pocket, and now she is a successful restaurateur making khao man gai, and I am very excited to meet her. I heard she's got a good story.
I have one dish and I open at 10 and I close when I say loud. Back then I thought it was my statement. My name is Nong Punsuwattana. I am originally from Bangkok, Thailand. I came to Portland in 2003 with $70 and 2 suitcases, and then I just worked at the restaurant. I was a server. Every day, 7 days a week, just save money. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have a dream to own my own business. I don't know what it looked like yet, but I'm gonna do it my way. I was cooking for friends and stuff, and everyone said, oh, it's good, you should open a restaurant. And I come to realize the opportunity to stand out as an immigrant in the United States.
So what's khao man gai and why do you make that, and why was that the thing you chose?
So khao man gai is Thai chicken and rice. When I worked at the Thai restaurant before, every place has like 300 items on the menu. When you think of so many choices, you don't know what to pick, you're gonna pick chicken and rice. After waitress for like 7 years, I did save some money. I did learn that it's not enough to open a restaurant, but it's enough to open a food cart. So I drove all the way to Corvallis and I got that little kettle corn cart. I was in the cart for about almost 3 years until I decided to expand. When it was started, it was just me. It's a one-woman show.
Yeah,
every day. I do what I like. Yeah.
See, I think that's important. Do what you like.
Cheers.
We're hustling to make it in time for sound check for Aaron Jones. Amazing guitar player, great songwriter, fantastic singer. He was born and raised in the Central District right here in Seattle, Washington. We're gonna catch sound check, have a beer with him, and then we get to stay for the show. And we got backstage passes, so that's extra cool.
I picked up the guitar at 13 years old. You know, growing up in the 90s, I got the hip hop, I got the grunge, and I got the blues and soul, the Motown, you know, so all that. I'm Aaron Jones. I play guitar in a band called Aaron Jones in the Way. Born and raised in Seattle, man. That's me. I have learned, and I built my whole life off of this, man. It's like I grew up really poor in Seattle. My mom abandoned me when I was 4 years old. You know what I'm saying? Left me at a daycare, didn't come back for me. Luckily, I was taken by this wonderful woman who was my aunt. You know, in order for me to pull myself out of where I was at in that situation, I had to completely change my mentality. And that's where that emotional playing comes from. It comes from that place of like, I'm not going to necessarily learn this because it's a power chord. I'm not gonna learn this because it's a technique. I'm gonna play it because this is the only way that I can express myself is through this language here.
Why do you stay in Seattle?
It's the attitude here. I mean, this community is really about nurturing the gifts of all of us around us. And while there's this sense of competition, it's more like, hey, like I can do it better than you can, and then they do it better than you, and you go, back to the drawing board, we gotta do it again, right? It really embodies the true American spirit, which I think is about bringing cultures together. You know, I know there's a lot of people that are looking around at America right now asking the question of what's going on. We think we're so different from each other, and we're acting off of this difference that we think we have versus the actual truth, which is that we're not that different, you know? And I think it may take a guitar player to come forward and play some American rock and roll to remind you and everyone else that I'm American just like you. My skin color doesn't mean anything. The precedent in America was set in 1776, and since that, immigrants have come to this country and they've assimilated to that precedent, and I'm a product of that. I'm an American rock and roller. That's what I do. I play American rock.
We're heading towards the Mount Baker National Forest, where we're going to hook up with my friend Chris Morgan. He's a an ecologist, a conservationist, and a filmmaker, which is how we know each other. And I'm quite certain that he's going to take us someplace beautiful for our interview. And we're almost there. Look at that. Just look out your window.
This word wild fascinates me. And what does it mean to different people? For me, the word wild it is a feeling as much as it is a place. My name's Chris Morgan, and I'm an ecologist, and I have a deep fascination with big wild animals. When I was a kid, I used to find ants in the cracks of sidewalks, and that's where my fascination with nature started. And now I'm just as curious about the wild world, but now the animals are 700 pounds. I'm not crazy, and I don't think I'm some kind of bear whisperer, but I have spent a lot of time around a lot of bears, and they never cease to impress me with how different each of them are in terms of their personalities. It's just like, looking at a room of people, and you can wander your eyes around a meadow and figure out what bear is more tolerant than another and how they're all going to interact with each other.
But when you walk into a house party, let's say, and there's 10, 15 people in there, unique individuals, statistically speaking, one of them's an asshole, right? I mean, you walk up on a group of 10 or 15 bears.
One of them's an asshole.
One of them, right. How do you?
So usually those kinds of bears don't want to have anything to do with you. They're not even there.
Right.
They're long gone. They can smell you from 2 or 3 miles away, sometimes more. They're incredibly smart animals, and if you remember that, and there's a respect that goes both ways, then it can be the most incredible experience.
So what's the draw to the Pacific Northwest?
It's like the Wild West to me. And there isn't much of that left. England used to be wild enough for grizzly bears till 1,000 years ago. It isn't any longer. So then I find myself living in the North Cascades, and I was completely blown away by this iconic place. It's as American as it gets to me. The mountains, the rivers, the glaciers, the forests here, it's at a scale that is only American. And the grizzly bear is at the top of that iconic American thing to me, There aren't many places in the world that are wild enough for these giant bears, and we're sitting in one of them right now. I think that nature and wild places, it's a leveling ground. It's a place where we can all meet that taps into something ancient in the human psyche, right? If we can work with that and, see eye to eye, at least on one thing in the world that keeps on getting more and more split and separated, then nature is a really powerful thing. My name's Chris Morgan, and this bud's for you.
My name's Aaron Jones, and this bud is for you.
I'm Nong, and this bud is for you.
So that's it. Portland to almost Canada, 3 days, 3 really amazing people. I just know that there's a lot more places, a lot of good stories, and a lot of really great people who make this corner of America unique. I'll let you know what I find.